You're narrowing in on a very, very serious subject, and I don't think it's unique to EMU. I think it's a common experience when persons of color attend college on a predominantly white campus. And EMU isn't just a predominantly white campus, it's a campus that was created for a particular religious sect many, many years ago. And even though that has evolved to where the Mennonites only make up 38% of the entire campus, it's almost like an apartheid, where the minority has the power. Does that make sense? And the majority is more viewed as guest than host. Does that make sense? So I recognize the dilemma that you are articulating so well.
A lot of our students come from rural areas, our majority students, maybe have not had a whole lot of contact with multicultural or international students. A lot of our athletes come from less rural areas, and so they're coming from urban areas into a country area, into a very Mennonite community that they may or may not have a lot of information about as far as culture, Mennonite culture, and needing to fit into, so both systems needing to fit together and maybe not knowing and understanding each other very well. And so I think a lot of stumbling is maybe happening in those areas, trying to get people to come together without any information, just trying to make it work.
Since they're so big on diversity, it would be nice to see a diverse group of staff and faculty members here. That's one thing that we don't really have. I mean, I can count all the minorities on one hand here at EMU, so it would be nice to see some more staff that could reach out to the students here.
As a faculty staff member, I'm seeing that there aren't many people who even look like me on campus, and so it's been overwhelming, I think, in some ways, because I'm tending to be that point person because there's no one else. And so I think that some work needs to definitely be done.
The challenge is that most of us are more comfortable relating to people who are more similar to us. And that shows up frequently in who we choose to just hang out with if we're undergraduates, or who we choose to hire if we bring people on campus. And we sit down and say, well, that person feels like a good fit. It's often the person that is more similar to us. So we have to acknowledge our own tendencies towards moving closer to those who are more similar to us because of our comfort level.
Well, just depending on where you grow up as an African-American male, there are some times when you won't feel comfortable being around a group of whites or things like that. So we tend to gravitate towards other black students. But here at EMU, I'm starting to see that they come here, regardless of what your race is, you're going to end up talking to everybody, which is what I like to see. So that's definitely a good thing here at EMU.
I think there's a need on campus for some training for faculty, staff, and probably students as well.
Some of the things that I do as president of the Black Student Union is to make sure that everybody is blended together, make sure everybody has, a place at the event, make sure everybody can participate and understand what's going on. And not only that, we want it to be an educational experience, a learning experience for everyone that gets a chance to come in. So.
And I can't speak to what has been done. I can just speak to what I see. And so I don't know if there have been lots of labor and not many fruits from that labor as far as trying to recruit and have retention for students and faculty staff of color. So right now, I think the thing that I want to really work on is folks are here, let's keep them here. Retention is an issue, and that's something you can just look at the numbers and know. So to me, it's, what should I say, lackluster, to say the least, to bring people here for a year or two, spend a lot of money, and not have them leave with a degree. Fall
semester during my sophomore year, I went to Washington, D.C. to do my cross-cultural. So that was an opportunity for me to get to know my African-American heritage. So when I came here in the spring of sophomore year, I took over the Black Student Union as president. So that was an opportunity for me to try to schedule events and try to get the feel of what what was needed around campus. So we came here this fall and we started getting the jump on what we wanted to do for chapels, what we wanted to do for events of the year, who we wanted to come to these events. So that was a big thing, of course. The events that we've had were for everybody, of course. Anybody can join the Black Student Union. But one of the problems that we were having was the same problem that other EMU people were having, was that we were getting a lot of African American students and we weren't really reaching out to others. So what we wanted to do was try to switch it, not necessarily switch it, but to try to implement a way that we can get everybody involved. So that's one of the biggest things that we're trying to work on, is trying to bring the minority and the majority together as much as possible.
You can't just be singular faceted. We need to be multifaceted. We've been created for that. Let's be who God created us to be.
Yeah, that's something I've been growing into.
But the benefit is, when you do choose to bring in those who are diverse, you get those perspectives and you gain the strengths that they bring, rather than magnifying the similarities that come when we all tend to think alike and have more groupthink. And groupthink is one of the things that happens when you have too much homogeneity and not enough heterogeneous groupings of people. And I think we benefit at EMU as we've become more heterogeneous. Well, if you look at it in the broadest terms, it makes us much more like the kingdom of God. And if you look at how, the type of world that God created and the diversity that God brought to the world, we're starting to look a lot more like the whole world.
Finding out through SGA, finding out through faculty representation, who is on this committee, who is speaking into the decisions that impact the very fabric of our campus community, because it has to improve if we're going to, with all authenticity, invite persons of color to be part of and not just be a guest on our campus. Woo! Getting me fired up.